Have you ever stopped to think about how a single discovery can change the entire course of human history? What if the atom was never split? What if nuclear power, for both peace and war, was never developed? It's a fascinating question. We often associate nuclear technology with the mushroom clouds of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, or the chilling tension of the Cold War, but it's also the silent, powerful force behind a significant portion of our planet's electricity. So, what would our world look like today if scientists like Einstein, Fermi, and Oppenheimer had never unlocked the secrets of the atom? Would we be living in a global utopia, free from the threat of nuclear annihilation? Or would our world be a dirtier, less advanced, and perhaps even more conflict-ridden place? Let's strap in and travel to an alternate timeline, a world without nuclear power. Right away, the political landscape of the 20th century would be unrecognizable. The Cold War, as we know it, simply wouldn't have happened. The decades-long standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union was defined by the doctrine of mutually assured destruction, or MAD. Both superpowers knew that a full-scale conflict would result in the end of civilization. This terrifying stalemate, ironically, created a strange kind of stability. It prevented direct large-scale wars between major powers for over 40 years. Without nuclear weapons, what would have stopped a World War III? It's chilling to consider, but a conventional conflict between the US and the USSR would have been devastating, potentially involving millions of soldiers and battles across Europe and Asia. The sheer scale of conventional warfare might have been far bloodier than anything seen in our timeline since 1945. Furthermore, the very concept of a superpower would be different. A nation's strength would be measured purely by the size of its army, navy, and air force, along with its economic might. Countries with massive populations and industrial capacity, like China and a unified Soviet bloc, might have held an even greater advantage. The post-war world order wouldn't be a bipolar struggle, but a multipolar scramble for dominance. The balance of power would be far more fragile, with regional conflicts potentially escalating into global ones. Without the nuclear off switch, alliances like NATO might still exist, but their purpose and power dynamics would be fundamentally altered. The absence of nuclear weapons would also ripple through global governance. The United Nations Security Council as 5 permanent members were chosen largely because they were the primary victors of World War II and the first to possess nuclear arms. Without the bomb, would that exclusive club even exist? The very structure of international diplomacy, built around containing the nuclear threat, would have a different foundation. Perhaps we'd have a more democratic or a more chaotic international system. Now, let's turn our attention to science and technology. The race to build the atomic bomb, known as the Manhattan Project, was one of the most ambitious and expensive scientific undertakings in human history. It pulled together the brightest minds of a generation, accelerating our understanding of physics, chemistry, and engineering at an incredible pace. Without this intense, government-funded push, where would we be? First, particle physics would have evolved much more slowly. Giant particle accelerators like those at CERN, which help us understand the fundamental building blocks of the universe, were born from the legacy of nuclear research. We might still be decades away from discovering particles like the Higgs boson. Our understanding of the cosmos, from how stars burn to the origins of the universe, is deeply connected to nuclear physics. Then there's the energy sector. In our world, nuclear power plants provide about 10% of the world's electricity. It's a powerful source of clean, carbon-free energy. In a non-nuclear timeline, the world's hunger for electricity would have to be met by other means. In the mid-20th century, that would have meant one thing: burning more fossil fuels. Far more. Imagine a world with double or even triple the number of coal and oil power plants. The environmental consequences would be staggering. Air quality in major cities would be significantly worse, and acid rain would be a much more widespread problem. Most importantly, the accumulation of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere would have started much earlier and at a much faster rate. The climate change we are grappling with today could be far more advanced and severe in this alternate reality. The push for renewable energy sources like solar and wind might have started sooner out of sheer necessity, but would they have been able to scale up fast enough to replace the sheer power density of nuclear energy? It's a huge question mark. Beyond energy, many other technologies we take for granted have roots in nuclear science. Medical imaging techniques like PET scans rely on radioactive isotopes. Radiation therapy is a cornerstone of cancer treatment. Food preservation through irradiation keeps our supply chain safe. Even the smoke detectors in our homes often use a tiny amount of a radioactive element. Without nuclear research, medicine would be less effective, and our daily lives would be subtly, but significantly, different. This brings us to society and culture. The atomic age wasn't just a scientific era, it was a cultural phenomenon. The bomb cast a long, dark shadow over the collective psyche of the post-war generation. It fueled a sense of existential dread that permeated movies, literature, and music. Think of classic sci-fi films about post-apocalyptic mutants or the dark, anxious themes of Cold War spy thrillers. This nuclear anxiety shaped our art and our worldview. Without it, would the optimism of the 1950s have been less tainted by fear? Would the counterculture movement of the 1960s have had the same anti-establishment fire without the threat of the draft for a massive conventional war or the fear of nuclear apocalypse? The anti-nuclear and peace movements were powerful social forces that mobilized millions of people around the world. These protests didn't just focus on weapons. They championed environmentalism and questioned the authority of governments. This spirit of activism might have taken a different form, perhaps focusing earlier and more intensely on the environmental damage from fossil fuels. On a daily level, life might have felt more secure in one way, no looming threat of instant annihilation, but less secure in others. The prospect of another world war fought with conventional weapons would be a constant, tangible fear. Instead of duck and cover drills for nuclear attacks, schools might have run drills for citywide firebombings and chemical weapon attacks, grim reminders of the horrors of World War II. The psychological impact would be profound, swapping one kind of fear for another. So, what are the long-term global consequences? This non-nuclear world is a paradox. It's a world free from the single greatest existential threat we've ever created, yet it might be more polluted, less technologically advanced in certain fields, and locked in more frequent and bloody conventional wars. Global power would be more fragmented, leading to a messier and less predictable international stage. The great irony is that the technology that threatens to destroy us all also provides a significant source of clean energy and has driven countless scientific and medical breakthroughs. Removing it from history doesn't automatically create a better world. It creates a different world with its own unique set of catastrophic risks. Perhaps the greatest challenge wouldn't be nuclear annihilation, but a slower, more insidious collapse from environmental degradation and endless conventional warfare. In summary, a world without nuclear power would have spared us the terror of the Cold War and the specter of Armageddon. But in its place, we might have faced a grim reality of more frequent, large-scale wars, a more heavily polluted planet, and a slower pace of scientific discovery in key areas. The story of nuclear power is a perfect example of humanity's double-edged genius, our ability to unlock the universe's greatest secrets, and our struggle to wisely manage the power that comes with that knowledge. It forces us to ask, is it our technology that's the problem, or is it us? What do you think? Would a world without nuclear power have been better or worse? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through an alternate timeline. If you enjoyed this thought experiment, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more what-if scenarios, and definitely share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear your take on this. Until next time, stay curious.